Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington, and this is Reality Tea with Candy. So before we dive into today's episode, which is Stassi Schroeder confirming the truth and the lies of what Raquel Leviss said during her interview with Bethenny Frankel. Now, I had my own conspiracy theories about what was the truth and what was lies. And Stassi basically confirmed everything we talked about. I will link that video down below where we did our live listening party. If you guys haven't listened to that, I'll link it down below. But before we dive in, don't forget about our announcement. We have our free podcast, Reality Tea with Candy. It's on Spotify and Apple. A free way to support the show would just be to, give us a follow on Spotify, give us a listen, give us a rate, a review. Also, you can join our weekly Patreon community. We go live weekly on Patreon, and then you have access to archived pop culture and reality TV videos and exclusive videos that are just for our Patreon members. And don't forget to give me a follow over on TikTok for self-love content and daily lifestyle content. So with that, let's dive right on in. So let's just get into it. Let's listen to what Stassi had to say on her Straight Up with Stassi podcast. She does a pop culture happy hour with this woman named Taylor. No tea, no shade. I'm not so much into Taylor, but I really am into Stassi and what she had to say about the situation. So let's listen, and then we will break everything down.
So anyone who's listening to this podcast knows that Raquel Leviss, who is now fully going by Rachel. Okay.
Yes.
She went on Bethenny's podcast, Just Be, and it was 3 episodes. And now we just were given an aftermath episode, which was solo Bethenny that I just listened to very quickly.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm super thankful for all the ads because it helps me to listen to as quickly as possible. I realized these episodes weren't that long. They're 5-minute episodes.
Well, this is the thing. She really milked the fucking shit out of this. I saw a TikTok that was what is this, a Marvel movie? 3 parts. And also she didn't even prepare us. After the first one, I was like, that was an abrupt ending.
Yeah.
It wasn't hey, there's a part coming out.
Taylor, the way that was my first thought, the way I listened and I was like, that seemed are you new at this? It seemed there was literally no well, thank you so much for being here. Nothing, nothing. Yeah, I had no idea that it was going to be in parts either. Okay, so my biggest takeaways from this were more about Vanderpump Rules and specifically and about.
Can you explain?
And about Rachel,
that?
About Tom,
because I'm
yeah, just hearing that, let me just say this, I know everybody thinks that Rachel is just lying. I think that there were lies and there were truths told. I think both.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do believe that everything Rachel's saying, she thinks she's telling the truth.
I agree with that 100%.
Even though she's a liar and has lied in such a serious, profound way for so long, you can tell that that right now, her whole thing is she is so desperate to undo that. She's so desperate to tell the truth. I can see that in her. But that doesn't mean that she's been given all the right information.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a really good.
I'm going to probably skip over what Taylor says, but I want to stop this really quick because I agree with what Stassi is saying, and that's what we said in our previous episode. I do think that Rachel, in her mind, believes what she's saying. I do think she's lying about certain things intentionally, but I think the majority of it in her head, she thinks is true. A little delulu going on here. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean that seriously. But I also think that there are but that's not to take away from Rachel. In my personal opinion, she seemed like she was reveling in it. She seemed proud of it. She seemed the reason why, Tom and I, it went on for so long because Tom and I couldn't get our story straight about how long it had been going on. That doesn't sound like someone who's remorseful. That sounds like someone who like still is reveling in it. I said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. I think the only reason why Rachel now is going on this anti-Bravo, anti-NBC, I was exploited Bethenny tour is because Tom Sandoval no longer wants to be with her. He discarded her and she wasn't getting the money that she asked for. And we'll get more into that, but I agree with what Stassi is saying. I'm going to skip a little bit of what Taylor says.
Well, I was going to say Daisy
that I just think is not true. And so she
fair.
believes, kind of like Sandoval saying that they offered him a producer credit, but
part.
There's no way.
That could have been Sandoval like stroking his own ego.
Yes, I think.
So you don't think that that's true?
Not at all. Not at all. I think first there is no way. There's no way they would reward him like that. There's it would never happen. Why would they give him control when they see that he's spent all this time lying? Why would they then give him control when they see how capable he is of lying and manipulating a situation like that? And they don't just hand out producer credits to cast members. Like that's just not the way that it works. So I feel like that was just something that he told Raquel to feel like a big shot again.
And I'll stop it there. That's exactly what we said too. You know, we said that I thought that Rachel wasn't lying when she said that Tom Sandoval was offered a producer credit. I said, that is what Tom Sandoval told her. And the person who was lying was Tom Sandoval. And Stassi just confirmed that, right, with her theory as well. So I agree. And also, it also goes to show you how much Rachel is still in love with Tom. She can say she's not in love with him all she wants. Well, let me put it this way. It's still infatuated that she still isn't using any type of critical thinking skills. Like, why is she just blindly believing everything that Tom tells her and regurgitates it back out as if it's fact? Like, she's still not using her own brain to be like, wait a minute, maybe this guy is like, I don't know, lying to me. But there you go. And when I say like Taylor and fast forwarding to her stuff, that's no shade to Taylor. I don't know who she is, but I want more of what Stassi has to say about it because she has the institutional knowledge, and I just agree with what her points are. Okay, let's go.
That's so fucking him. Wait, did that? I think
so manipulative.
Gaslighting,
all of it. Oh my god, all of it. Like, actually, like I feel like my blood pressure is rising. Like this.
No, please don't go into labor right now.
I truly more unless you take that out, and they did. Bethenny said, I wanted you to see how beautiful you looked. And then
stop contracting your vagina muscles.
True. Oh my God. Could you imagine writing that in my baby's baby book? Okay. So when she asked about that and he said, I wanted you to see how beautiful you looked. And then after the scene wrapped, the fact that he got mad and said, why did you say that to me on camera? You're going to make me look bad. And then went and threatened production and said, I won't film anymore unless you take that out. And they did. And they did.
And they did.
Okay, just to clarify what they're talking about, because I had to skip through the Taylor stuff. What Stassi is now talking about is what we highlighted again in our other episode, which is linked down below, is this. Rachel claimed on Bethenny's podcast that during the scene where Tom comes to her apartment, this is when they picked up cameras for Scandival, she asked him point blank, why did you film me, in a sexual act without my consent? And allegedly, Tom admits that that's what he did. And he says, because I wanted you to see how beautiful you were. Extremely manipulative, very slimy. It sounds like something he would say, really gross. And that he then sort of realized that he basically admitted to committing a crime. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to film someone in a sexual act without their consent. And so he said, why did you say that? Why did you ask me that? That's going to make me really look bad. And he threw some temper tantrum with production and was like, if you don't cut that out, I'm not going to film anymore. And production catered to him. And they, allegedly cut that part out in order to protect Tom and to have him film. And Stassi's basically saying, I believe that because they've done that in the past before. So that's nothing new or abnormal, where they would protect the guys, they would cut out certain scenes and situations what they did, but then they would make the girls look like crazy Kristen Doty, Tequila Katie, raging Stassi. So they had no problem with making the women look crazy and out of their minds and in their own light, but yet they would protect the guys. And I think particularly they protected Tom Sandoval because they didn't really protect Jax that much. Maybe he was even worse than we even knew. But let's keep going.
That hurts. Like it hurt for like women everywhere. Women everywhere. I was just like, come on, like we're still doing this shit. Like that happened all the time on Vanderpump Rules. Right. When I was there, all the time. There were so many times that I remember crying to producers and being like, you guys have covered for certain people that have done really dark things.
Poorly behaved men.
Yes, men that like I can't even be in the same room as some of these of these men, and I'm getting like less screen time because of it, and I'm willing to get less screen time because of it. I'm willing to film less because like this is so unfair and this is so wrong. But at the same time, I thought about it and I was like, would I ever want to like go public with this sort of thing? And I was like, no, because I wouldn't want to ruin everyone's jobs. Like I wouldn't want to shut down a show that it's not just the cast, it's the crew, it's producers, there are so many people that work on it and love it.
It's a trickle down.
It'll trickle down to so many people that I'm like, I'm tougher than this. Like I can heal on my own. And I did. And there's so many other female cast members on Vanderpump Rules who have gone through the same thing where production has covered for the dudes. And we've just had to heal ourselves. So like, that was a straight up truth.
Yep.
I know that Rachel told because it's happened before. And like the fact that like Sandoval was able to just like get away with it again was just like, fuck. But like, I also understand that producers have a job to do. Like they want to get him to film more. And so like, if that's what they have to.
Okay, so I'll stop it there and do a little commentary. So I think Stassi's telling the truth about, certain men on the cast being protected at the expense of the women's physical and mental health and well-being. This also brings up the question about Kristen Doty and James Kennedy. Kristen's like, oh, James was so physically abusive. Producers protected him and they cut the scenes out, but they kept in the scenes of Kristen being physically abusive to James. The entire cast have been verbally and emotionally abusive to each other. All of them have. Nobody on that cast hasn't been verbally and abusive to each other. But when it comes to the physical abuse, particularly within romantic relationships, we have seen Kristen be physically violent against James, and we've only heard of allegations of him being physically violent against her. In my opinion, I think they probably have been physically violent to each other. And just like Stassi said, the men are protected, and those episodes, or those scenes rather, are cut out to protect the men. I'm not condoning violence on either side. I'm not saying that any person is right or justified. I think if you put your hands on anybody in any context, it is wrong. Okay, so be very, very clear on that. We are not saying violence on any level is okay. But I agree, and I think they're telling the truth. They probably really have been protecting the men and their poor behavior at the mental and physical expense of the women on the cast. Like, we've seen it. It's not speculation. It's what we've seen. So I agree with her on that, and it's really sad and really telling.
To do, it's such like a. It's so dark. It's like such a fucked up way of of working, but I understand why they have to do it sometimes.
But I also feel like
and this is where I disagree, because I know she's saying that I understand why they have to do it. To me, that sounds like an abusive person being like, well, I know why he hit me because I provoked him. It sounds like you've been conditioned to take abuse. I don't care what your job is. I don't care if you're trying to make a show. it is never okay. And it is, I believe it's illegal for employers to cover up for their employees' abuse. It is never okay. And it's never that you have to do it to cover up for abuse and violence against someone. That's not okay. So it's not okay. And they didn't have to do it. You could have a show without covering up for people having physical violence. I don't know, maybe hire people who don't physically beat each other. I don't know.
Audience standpoint, right? So it's like that scene between the two of them, it felt like something was lacking. It wasn't making sense from my.
After pulling that, like you no, you're not going to be offered no. That was just like such a.
Now, see, my dumbass believed when she said the thing about the producer credit. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he was rewarded for such bad behavior. So he's over here self-producing. There has been rumors. I mean, him and Ariana fought about it at the reunion that that they are fighting back and forth, self-produced themselves as a couple.
Right. Yeah.
So he's been doing this for years, with or without her. Who knows the truth? Then he's doing it this whole season and bullying Raquel is not being able to tell the truth, which I actually think she would have told a lot sooner if she wasn't so scared of him. We talked about this on tour, actually, how you felt like it was her fear of Tom, of of disappointing the one person she had left is why she kept going along with the lie.
Right.
And that she wanted to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then I was like, and then they rewarded.
Okay, this is where I disagree. I don't think that Rachel didn't tell the truth about her and Tom because she was in fear of disappointing Tom or she was in fear of losing Tom. I think she didn't tell the truth about her and Tom because she got a kick out of it being their secret. She got a kick out of being the other woman. She got a kick out of being the mistress. So I think that's why she didn't tell the truth until she wanted to become the main chick. And then she had no problem telling him, you need to tell her, you got this, I love you. Remember that in those leaks text messages, she's being very emboldened, like dressing up as, the Tom for BravoCon. That was very bold with a sweatshirt, wearing the matching lightning bolt necklaces. That was very bold, going to his hometown, meeting his family and friends. That was very bold. So I don't think that Rachel didn't tell the truth about the affair with her and Tom Sandoval because she was in fear of him or she didn't want to disappoint him. I think that's just how affairs go. You get a kick out of the secret. You get a kick out of doing it behind everybody's back until you want to go from side chick to main chick. And that's where she was at. She was ready to have Tom break up with Ariana and have her slide in as the main chick, not because she felt any type of way about disappointing Tom. I don't think that's true at all.
Him for all the self-producing by making him an actual producer.
Yeah.
Okay, Taylor, I can't wait, Taylor. Sorry.
Of what was said at the reunion, just
read
aloud that way. It hurt my stomach. Have I said horrible things to people on Vanderpump Rules? Yes. I've been there. I've been the one to be horrible like that. In that moment, Ariana, I feel like, was allowed to say those things. What I feel like wasn't allowed.
She could have said, yes. She took accountability.
I just feel like was allowed to say all of those things. What I feel like where it went wrong in the reunion, now looking back, is that Bethenny made a good point that the whole point of that reunion, there wasn't to get to a resolution. It was literally just to batter her. It was, so the whole cast just pummel her. That's not right.
And also,
okay, this is where I also disagree on this one. And I'll tell you why. The reason why the whole cast, in my opinion, had the green light to pummel Rachel is because Rachel did something to the entire cast. It's not that Rachel only had sex with Tom Sandoval behind Ariana's back. It's that Rachel also then did a restraining order. She took it legal. She took it to the courts against Sheena. So there's that element of it as well. Rachel also then, whether it was a decoy or she just didn't care that she was gonna, have some form of sexual relations with Tom and his best friend, Tom Schwartz. Apparently they didn't care about sharing her and swapping her. She did that, the whole Tom Schwartz thing, which was super disrespectful to Katie. She also was engaged to James Kennedy. And Tom Sandoval, even though Tom Sandoval is a snake and he's nobody's friend, in James's mind was one of his best friends. Tom Sandoval paid $12,000 to help James propose to her. Tom Sandoval had James opening up for his, band, Tom Sandoval and the Most Extras. They were really, really, really good friends. So not only did she do it to Ariana, but she took legal action against Sheena Shea. She completely disrespected Katie and Katie's mom, remember? At the very, I think it was like the second to last episode, the second to last episode, extremely disrespectful to Katie's mother. And then she also went after Lala, calling Lala a bimbo and a mistress and all this stuff. She went in on Lala. We can't forget about that. She went after her when the entire time she herself was having sex with Ariana's boyfriend. But yet she wants to call Lala a mistress and a whore and a bimbo and all of this stuff. And then what she did to James, like, it's one thing to move on, but to move on with your ex-fiance's best friend, that's also very hurtful. So it's not that she just had sex with Tom Sandoval. It's everything else she did to the entire cast. And I'm not absolving Tom Sandoval for his part. He doesn't get a free pass. But that's where I think the people get it wrong. She didn't just do something to Ariana. She systematically did something to everybody on that cast except for Tom Sandoval and Schwartz. So that is why I think there was so much vitriol from everyone on the cast against Rachel, is because of what she did to them, not just because of what happened between her and Tom and Ariana. So that's where I disagree with this.
I said this on tour like a lot when we would talk about the scandal of it all. I would say that I felt again, as a viewer, I felt blue-balled by Bravo with that reunion. I liked the last episode, the finale, but I was just waiting for something, anything. And like, it just felt like a big, huge nothing burger. And I feel like, again, like she said, like, it would have been a better actual reunion had they let Rachel say more and not just pummel. Like, I feel like that was a disservice done by everybody.
And I will say here, Rachel had the opportunity to tell her story with the one-on-one with Andy. So, and she still sat in the one-on-one with Andy, lying and looking weird and just doing the absolute most. So she had an opportunity to tell her truth and her side of the story. And she still lied in the one-on-ones. And that's why they had that weird, whack, nonsensical last 5 minutes of the third reunion, which made no sense. So this whole Bethenny sit-down interview has not been the first opportunity for her to tell her side of the story. She had that opportunity with Andy at the reunion with the one-on-ones, and she chose not to use it. She chose to continue to lie and to cover up. That's her fault.
Included. Andy is a moderator. I mean, Lisa too.
Feelings about it. I
sure.
couldn't believe listening to like what was said to her back, like, affected me so much. Like, it made me emotional. And again, it's because Bethenny said I have a daughter. So I was just picturing a bunch of people saying these words to Hartford. And I'm like, no. I'm like trying to like stay back in it. Like this is not about Hartford. But again, I need to take responsibility and accountability and say, I have said worse on Vanderpump Rules. I have said and done worse. So like, who am I to be like, that reunion was really fucked up? Like I've been there. I've done it all. I've said it all.
We love an evolved queen.
I'm a little older.
I'm so proud of
you. I'm a mom. I'm a little older. So like now I just like have I have a new perspective. I see things through a different lens. And it was really hard to like hear those words being said to her again.
Also though, let's keep it, if we're going to keep it real.
Yeah.
I'm listening to you take ownership over nasty words you've said. You know, everybody that's listening to this is listening to it too. Guys, can we all admit that we probably all said nasty shit like Stassi said at past reunions, or nasty shit like
Yeah, and I agree with Stassi on this one. You know, take accountability, and I think that's what was lacking with Bethenny. You know, Bethenny just dropped an quote aftermath podcast episode for all of the backlash she's gotten. I'm going to do a recap of that on a different episode, but I do think that's what's missing is the fact that Bethenny didn't put her hands up and say, "Hey, look, I've benefited and participated in the toxicity of reality television." So from that perspective of having done it, now I kind of want to be a part of, you know, cleaning it up or making it better or whatever term you want to use. And I felt that was lacking. So I applaud Stassi and I agree with her for saying, you know what, I've done it. I've been there. I said worse. I've done worse, right?
who hasn't said something now that I'm like, wait a second, wait.
Like in the last 6 months, really started to explore new diaper options. I had always heard about actual song, and then it's coterie spelled. I say this all the time. It's no surprise, you guys. I am not that great of a cook, but you'll look up a recipe.
I'm fast forwarding through the ads, you guys. Sorry.
On Pinterest, and you can pick so much easier. And that's not the route we should be taking right now. Like, Ariana hasn't done anything wrong. Why are we trying? What is this? Trying to say we weren't that good of friends. Ariana's making so much money now. She's still living with Sandoval. She's not living with Sandoval because she's forgiven him. She's living with Sandoval because she's like, this is my house too, and I refuse to leave my own home. And Sandoval is being a gaslighting prick motherfucker who is refusing to leave.
And this is the thing too, and I know this because I went through a divorce. When you own property with somebody, whether you're married or common law marriage, which they basically are, or I don't know what, like how long you have to be together, but if you are both on that deed, is my point, and there's going to be some sort of a breakup and a liquefying of assets that you own together. My lawyer told me, I remember, he said, don't leave your apartment. Yeah. If you leave and you go to court, he will get the apartment. So it's like squatters' rights. Yeah. I think maybe that's wrong, but something to the effect of in the same line of, so like, she actually has to stay there. Like, they made it seem like she's there because she's forgiven him. No. She's there because she's fighting for her right, for her ownership over that piece of land. Yes. That's different.
Yes, 100.
She's living in a home.
I don't know what it is, you guys, but like Taylor gives me anxiety. I think maybe it might be like her mic levels. Sorry, I'm so sorry that I keep talking about it, but like I'm trying to listen. It's like, oh, she gives me anxiety. But what she's saying is correct, though. I totally agree with her in this moment where I don't think Ariana and Tom are living in the house together because they necessarily want to, but because they both are like, I'm not giving up my right to this property. I'm not giving up my right to the equity in the house. You know what I'm saying? And so I do agree with her on that point. And if I was Ariana, I would stand my ground, you know, not to quote that weird loophole in the law system, but I would stay there. I would not leave my home and let him just take it away from me. Absolutely not. Especially not after he used it to, you know, get equity for his failing restaurant. Absolutely not.
Hostile environment.
100%. So like everything that Rachel said about that, lies and just bullshit and just like not. And Bethenny, shut up. Like that's
exactly.
This is another issue that I had. Like I understand Bethenny taking this interview. What I don't understand is how she didn't, when she found out she was going to interview Rachel, go and binge watch seasons 1 through fucking 10 so that she knew everything and do her research. It was lazy. A lazy fucking interview. Just hearing her talk the way Bethenny talked about Ariana and Sandoval living together, that was a lazy interview. She did not do her research. She didn't understand. Yes. She does not understand anything.
Yes. And to that point, so in the last,
I agree 100% with what Stassi said. It was a very lazy interview. She didn't do her research. It was sloppy for Bethenny. And I was shocked because I'm a huge Bethenny fan. I actually really like Bethenny, but it was sloppy. And I think that Bethenny And I'm going to talk about this because I'm going to do another episode on the Aftermath podcast that she did. I think in real time, Bethenny was realizing this is a train wreck, but I've already started the train. I don't know how to get off it. But yeah, wrong road. I agree with her on that one.
But she said, but what were the camera people doing? She got the
I truly don't. When I heard the number 360, I was like,
wait, no, 360.
About how much money Rachel allegedly made for season 10. They're getting into it.
One.
Oh, really?
Why
that makes me think that it's fake.
Like, why the
why
one?
the detail? Yeah, exactly. That sounds like somebody who's like, we need to make up a number, but they were like, okay, 360, and then they were in a boardroom, and someone's like, no, add a one, because that's just like because the odds of it actually being an even number, like 360, like, no. Now I think that was fake. That detail just actually. Either way, I don't think Rachel's point was that she didn't make anything from this season.
No.
I think it was like she hasn't made anything since.
Agreed.
And I think that also her coming back, they weren't offering her what she felt like she deserved.
Can I ask you a question? I'm dying to know your answer.
Okay.
So she said that basically in the interview, what she really wanted was to
be paid as much as
Ariana and Tom. So do you think Ariana and Tom are making the same amount of money? Because they've been on the show she's been on a little bit longer than her. So that's my first question. You don't have to answer, but if you want to, I would like it. And so do you think that her and him are making the same amount of money? And number two, do you think that Rachel actually did deserve to make the same amount as them if they were all involved in the scandal altogether?
The way the Vanderpump Rules paying works, it literally goes by how many years you've been doing it. So how many years, not how many years have you been around production, because like she's been there as James's girlfriend. How many years have you been a lead, like a main cast member? And I was making less money. I don't know if people know this. I was making less money than a lot of people on the cast because I had left.
You left. Shit.
So I was a year behind people. And I was like,
wow.
And I never cared to fight it. I was like, you know what? Like, if this is how you guys do it, that's how you guys do it. I know my worth. And I'll just make other job opportunities outside of the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just had to think, that's how I chose to think about it instead of fighting to be like, no, I want to make as much as every single person. It just felt petty to me. Okay. So if we're going to go by that, no, Rachel doesn't deserve to make as much as Sandoval or Ariana. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's not how it works. And so the argument would be, okay, then you go and have an affair and then you just get to be paid as if you've been on the show for 11 years.
That's also fair.
That's fucking crazy.
You're rewarded for bad behavior.
Then any new person could come in, fuck some shit up, do something horrible, and then demand to be paid as if they had been on the show for 10 years. That's just like not how it works.
And also,
all right, I'm going to stop it there because I think they're not looking at the pay structure in the truth of what it is. It's really to exploit and not pay the talent, right? It's like, oh, the longer you stay on, the more money you'll make. So the more we do to you, the more abuse you take, the more expectation you do, come back again, because everybody's chasing that carrot. They're chasing that bigger paycheck, right? And so that's how they say, well, the first season you're on, we're not going to pay you, or we're going to pay you nothing, or we're going to pay you very, very little. But keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. That's actually a very toxic pay scale where it should be based on what value do you add to the actual show. That's how they get these people to work for basically nothing for years, promising some big payout. While they're still profiting, they're still making money. The executives are still making tons and tons of money, but they're saying to the talent, well, the more you let us use you and exploit you, the more you're on the show, then eventually we'll give you more money of what you're worth. That's why they're like, oh, after 5 years, you make all this big money and all this stuff. But the executives and everybody else is making big money all of those 5 years off of your back. Now, of course, I do think there's something about seniority, about, how long you've been on a job. Of course, 100%. But I think the real question is, in this particular situation, is this pay structure set up to keep people underpaid and exploited? I think that's something to be looked at, right? And I think the way Stassi's coming at it is like, well, this is how it's always been. Now, I don't think that means that Rachel should be paid the same. I don't think that Rachel should be necessarily, you know, I do think she should get a raise, as anybody going into another year of a job should get a raise. But do I think she should get the same as, Ariana and Tom? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. That's a little bit of a different, conversation going on. But I think when it comes to the whole question of exploitation without compensation, that's a way that the networks and the studios and production companies get away with underpaying their talent. Well, come back, the more you're on, maybe we'll pay you more money. Okay, let's keep going.
Oh, and now I'm like seeing where like I started to fall victim to like the Bethenny and Rachel agenda. Like, it's not like Rachel knew that her having this affair with Tom, that her and Tom tried to keep a secret, was going to be this blockbuster of a season.
Mm-hmm.
So like, like hindsight's 2020. So she didn't do the action because she was like, you guys, we're going to be the most important reality show on the face of the planet. Mm-hmm. She was living her life, fucking him quietly, hoping no one found out. And so, this was just a perfect storm of shittery. And I just feel like, the fact that it just was striking gold is just dumb luck. It's hitting the lottery. And there was no guarantee. Because think about it, there's been so many other nefarious affairs that have happened on Vanderpump Rules, but none quite this big.
Yes.
So you couldn't have predicted this. It's not like she took one for the team.
No.
For ratings and for money.
No. I mean, I understand wanting more money. Like, I get that. Be like, give me a bigger raise than you normally give. Up my percentage a little bit more than normal. That's fair because she can't really get work outside of this right now. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But that also is her fault. She did this to herself. It's so, see, this is where I have such conflicting things. Like, there are so many things that I did wrong on Vanderpump Rules and mistakes that I've made where it's like, well, I've done it to myself. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to go and complain and say, I deserve to get paid this because look how my life, like how this affected my life. Well, I did that to myself. I made those bad decisions. Right. And so it's just it's so complicated. Do I think Rachel should have gotten a little bit of a raise? Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But also, and it's not like they fired her. They asked her back. She chose not to go back, which is absolutely her prerogative for her mental health. But how can you be beating this drum about mental health and then be going on Bethenny's podcast and doing an interview like this? It's just, again, there's hypocrisy. It's conflicting messaging. I understand why the world is imploding over this.
No, truly. And I literally just had like my life flash before my eyes of seeing all of these like clickbait articles that it's just quoted. Stassi Schroeder says Rachel should have been like rewarded with a raise. That's like literally not what I mean. Like no, let's not reward cheating with a raise. I'm just saying, making a point about saying she can't find work anywhere else. If you want her back on this show enough, you probably are going to have to pay her a little bit more because she can't find work elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Please don't make that a clickbait fucking title in an article that makes it sound like I'm saying something that I'm not. Okay? This isn't about rewarding that behavior.
But it sounds like she out-negotiated herself, which is another lesson to be learned for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can push and push and push, but when you're out, you're out. So just like, I don't know. I feel like if I were her, I think it would have been smart to go back. Am I insane? Am I not understanding how bad it would have been for her? Because she said her next, like when Bethy said, what's your next plan? She was like, to start a podcast, kind of like a mental health podcast. And then she wanted to say like, because no one does that. I'm thinking, Rachel, so many people fucking do that. But then she said, because like the thing that nobody does is like tell it basically in so many words, I'm paraphrasing, but the mistress's perspective. And then Bethenny was like, yeah, because a lot of people, there's a lot of cheating, and that like in all those cheating scenarios, there has to be a mistress. And then she said, or a mister, and that is a quote. So yeah, So the thing is, if she was like, I'm out of Hollywood, I'm out of showbiz, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go get a degree in mental health, and I want to like pursue a career in therapy, I would be like, cool. But she wants to stay in the public eye, y'all. So if that's the case, go back to the show, get your money, and then figure out a way to monetize. Make some fucking merch. You know what I mean? Start a podcast while on the show so you can use a platform to fucking promote it.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much that, like,
she's not very business savvy, okay?
I was going to say, it also boils down to, like, she just didn't know how to monetize it. And I have empathy for that because I fucking suck at that shit too. But not as bad as her.
No, yeah, that was a wasted opportunity, the whole podcast thing. That's just strange to me because her voice shakes when she talks. So how is that going to work?
Don't even get me started.
Like, how is that going to work when, like, she gets nervous having a conversation off camera? Do you know what I mean? Like, or off air.
Yeah.
Best of luck. Cheese and pizza. I do think that she should have gone back. 100%.
Yeah.
Because I think it looks, even from the, like, and I'm just saying, like, from the outside, just like as a spectator that's like looking at social media or whatever, I think it's strange to see Sandoval back in the mix.
I'm going to stop there. I agree with Stassi and Taylor on this. I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I do think Rachel should have gone back. I do, because she can't blame, and obviously when we talk about mental health, it's from a place of respect and understanding, okay? But I think that she might be exploiting the, like, mental health thing, because like Taylor said, if the reason why you're not coming back is for your mental health, then, like, why are you still trying to be in the entertainment game? But the truth is, what Rachel really said was, I didn't come back because they weren't going to pay me enough. And I said this in our recap episode. I 100% think that if production, Bravo, NBC, was willing to pay Rachel the same amount as Ariana, not even Tom, she just wanted to be paid as much as Ariana, and or Tom still wanted to be with her, she would be back on the show. I don't think she's not coming back because of her mental health. I think she's coming back because she didn't get what she wanted. And she wanted to be equal to or better than Ariana, and she wanted Tom on her arm. But I think that if one of the two had happened, the money or Tom, or the money and Tom, she would be back. I don't think it has anything to do with her mental health. I think she's using that as an excuse.
Even though, like, I'm not saying anyone's forgiven him, I have no idea. I actually, like, haven't really talked to my friends about this. Like, I haven't asked. Mm-hmm. But from the outside, when you just, like, see photos of them all filming together, it's weird to see, like, whoa. Like, so we've all just been, like, fighting this fight and been, like, waving the flag. You know what I mean? And now you guys are just, like, filming with him, hanging out with him, taking photos with him. It's weird to see. And then Rachel literally is so far on the outside getting nothing from this. Like, Sandoval is getting paid for season 11 a lot of money. A lot of money, a lot, life-changing money, you guys, like, a lot. Rachel can't get a job and is not going to have her story told on the next season.
I mean, if she had gone back, she could have probably figured out a way. If anybody was going to be back in the good graces of the group, it probably could have been more her than him, because he's just such a fucking sociopath, in my opinion. However, and ultimately, I think she's wrong, but I think he's the most wrong.
Oh, I agree.
I definitely think he's the number one wrong. And had she come back, I don't think it would have shaken out like this. But because now she's talking about the show, it actually bonds everybody closer together. So if they are going to, like, be in good graces with Sandoval, it's kind of her fucking fault. And I'm so mad at her for creating this. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I wish she'd come back, and I wish that she's pushed him out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know where you go from here. When, like, a show sees so big of a scandal that it, like, it affected viewers and fans in, like, such a way that a storyline normally doesn't, that now people feel so invested in it that if the next season doesn't go according to the way viewers feel like what's fair to them, like, where do you go from there?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And what is fair to them?
I agree. I personally predict that season 11 is going to be a flop. I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think we're going to get what we want. I think it's going to be very surface and very forced. I think everyone is going to be on season 11 to promote. There's going to be more merchandise lines. There's going to be more makeup. There's going to be more beauty. There's going to be more singles and books. And I think it's going to be one big sponsored post. That's what I think season 11 is going to be, because I think they know that this could be their last season. And I think they want to capitalize on the way season 10 was going to be. And I think they all want to capitalize on Scandival as long as they can. I think it's going to be one big sponsored campaign season, and nothing is really going to happen. And I think Tom is going to be forgiven. And I think any drama is going to be very forced. I think there's going to be beef between Katie and Ariana, and the girls are going to go on Team Katie's side. But then I think that will be squashed. And I think nothing's really going to happen during the season. I think it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be flat. I think it's going to be one sponsored season. That's what I think. But I want to know what you guys think. You know, what do you think about Stassi basically confirming everything we said when we did our episode on, you know, breaking down the Rachel and Bethenny podcast interview? Again, that will be linked down below. And what are your predictions for Rachel? What do you think is going to happen with her, you know, with her new podcast, allegedly? What do you think is going to happen with Bethenny? What do you think is going to happen with season 11? Put it all down below. I want to know your thoughts. But before you do that, don't forget about, you know, our podcast, which is Reality Tea with Candy. Listen on Spotify or Apple. You know, a free way to support the show is just to subscribe, follow, and share, rate, and review if you want. Don't forget to join us on Patreon for weekly lives, access to archive videos, and exclusive content. And join me on TikTok at candy.washington for self-love and content and daily lifestyle content. Again, everything's linked down below. So with that, you guys, I will see you next time. Bye.